Yo, got a healer prediction tier list for both Raid and Mythic Plus of what I think is going to be the best healers for Season 2 with the 25% healing nerf they just received for the new season. This is mainly focused on Mythic Plus, but I think it should carry over to Raid for the most part. It should be fun to see how right or wrong we are as the season progresses, and I am stoked so much for this new season. Let me know what you guys think down below, if you agree with me or if you don't, and what healer you're going to be playing. If you're new to the channel, I mostly plug all of my keys, whether I'm healing, tanking, DPSing, with occasionally some friends or guildies, and up to around the plus 20 range, and then do normal and heroic rating. So no mythic rating or anything right now. So I think this tier list is going to be probably more for people around that same level. I also want to say before I get started that I think that most of these healers can do most types of content, definitely up to heroic rating or plus 20 keys. Some just might be a little bit easier than others based on their tier sets, responses to damage, and just HPS output. Let's get started. To get us started, let's go over these tiers, and I'm going to try to make this tier list as fast as I can. So S is God tier, A is awesome, B good, C meh, D send help. D is obviously they need rework, something needs to change, some tuning, because they're way farther below these other healers in my opinion. S is God tier, we're going to see them in the highest keys complete in my opinion, and definitely in Raid. They're just a great healer, great output, bring a lot of utility. It's going to be awesome. A is for awesome, it's right below God tier. I think they just have a little bit more weaknesses, or it's not as easy to put out healing, maybe not as much utility. B is good, same thing, but just a little bit less. They're good overall, just don't bring as much to the table as these other ones. And then C, behind these by quite a bit. There's some significant differences between the C and God tier. So to start us off, I'm going to go with what I think will be the best healer in Season 2, and that is Resto Shaman. I think Resto Shaman's phenomenal. They're easy to do damage, easy to pump out your healing. You have a lot of responses to incoming damage, like Healing Tide Totem, Spirit Link Totem, Ascendance, Ancestral Guidance. Their utility is wild, Bloodlust, Group Stuns, Knockback, Hex, for Incorporeal. So many things in your toolkit, and the HPS and just their healing output is looking really good, along with their damage output, which we know has been insane with Acid Rain. You also have an insanely fast interrupt, so for Mythic Plus, I think that's super important. It's one of the fastest in the game, especially it's always helpful if you have a group that's not interrupting what they should be. You have no issues with mana from what I've seen, and tier set looks interesting and fun. It plays into Riptide, putting Riptide on a target, and then Healing Rain going on that target, and then it heals the target with Tide Waters, which is based off a percentage of your spell power. It's a really cool healer. It plays into their healing toolkit really well. I think they're just phenomenal, man. You have so much you bring to the table, and having Bloodlust is just a big deal. I think they're the best healer. They're gonna be the best healer next season. Preservation Evoker, man. I'm gonna put actually with S tier as well. I don't think they're as good as Resto Shaman, but they bring some things to the table, which I think it puts it damn close, you know? They're easy to put out damage. They put out decent numbers for damage as well. Has really good HPS. We've seen that in Season 1. They have great responses to damage. From what I've seen in testing, they're just really good. Great mobility. They've got interesting utility to help with groups, like rescue. That's gonna be super helpful. Sleepwalk with Incorporeal, being able to cleanse diseases, and especially having being able to cleanse bleeds, which I think will be a big part in Mythic Plus specifically with Cauterizing Flame. It's just gonna be OP. You also, you bring Lust again, which I think is a big thing to mention, especially if your group doesn't have one in Mythic Plus, and obviously most people have it in Raid, but it's nice to have. You've got a Knockback, Knock Up, just a solid healer for Mythic Plus and rating. Tier set seems interesting. Adds a little bit more depth, I think, to the class overall. It causes like Spirit Bloom to add a hot base off of healing over 8 seconds, Dream Breath buff, and then some empowered spells granting Essence Burst, which is cool. I think it'll add more depth to this healer, and especially when pushing higher content. And just, I mean, this healer is just solid, guys. I think it's good. It got a lot of responses to big incoming damage, and with the healing nerf we've seen, these guys put out crazy big healing, and so we're gonna need that, for the next season, for sure. Let's jump over to Resto Druid. Man, I think Resto Druid is going to be high A tier for me. You bring Mark of the Wild. Everybody's going to want that. Versatility buff, that's fantastic. Instant A tier. No, just kidding, but it's really good. I think they belong in A tier. They're fantastic for pugging with all of their hots. I've got good responses to large AoE damage. You've got insane utility like Hibernating Cyclone for Incorporeal, which is going to be a big thing for Mythic Plus. Also, they're just really good in Raid, always. They've got a Disease Cleanse, Battle Res, great mobility, decent damage if you execute it well, although I think there's a higher skill cap there, especially if you're doing higher dungeons, even when raiding can be more difficult, depending on your group, especially if you're pugging. Oh my gosh. I think the damage can be a little bit more difficult to execute versus like your Preservation Evoker, Resto Shaman, or Holy Paladin. It is a solid option. I think HPS wise though, it's not quite as much as these two are putting out, especially with this healing nerf. Great option though. Like I said, I think they're high 8s here. They also bring a battle res, which is like just. I think I mentioned that earlier, but battle res is just incredibly important. I don't know. I can't tell you how many groups I've been in season 1 where like people are grabbing groups with no battle res, and I just like, what the heck are you guys doing? Battle res is super important. I just think it's a big thing to mention, obviously for raid, but definitely for Mythic Plus as well. Tier basically is just buffing your heals, which plays so well into your healing rotation, which I really like. So yeah, I think they're gonna be high 8s here, guys. Solid healer to play. Let's go with Holy Paladin. Holy Paladin, in my opinion, is going to be B tier. I haven't played much Holy Paladin in season 1. I barely touched on it. I played it quite a bit back in Shadowlands. Really liked it, but I've watched a lot of gameplay with Ellesmere. If you guys don't know who that is, you should definitely check him out on Twitch. Knows so much about healing and Holy Paladin. But I think that Pally offers great healing, has amazing responses to huge chunk damage, but struggles with damage compared to other healers, and the amount of work you have to do compared to other healers just seems like so much just to put out good damage numbers. They've got really great utility though. They've got Sack, Blessing and Protection, Lay on Hands. They got CC, Disease Dispel, Turn Evil, which is going to be good for Mythic Plus, which I think is a big reason why I think they deserve to be in B tier and why they're not lower. Their tier set looks decent, but I think Holy Power is struggling raid compared to other non-melee healers. The new raid seems very punishing from what I've seen from testing to melee in general, and having more melee healers I think will affect them being higher up on this list, especially when you could bring a Resto Shaman, a Preservation Evoker, or a Resto Druid instead. I mean, there's just they bring so much. And they also don't have a battle res. They don't have bloodlust. And I think too why they belong in B tier is Rep Paladin really good. Prop Paladin insane, especially for Mythic Plus, and we're seeing that for raid too. Just Prop Paladin is just it's incredible. And if you're bringing more than one Paladin, you're bringing a Rep Paladin most likely, if not another Prop Paladin for raid. They're just insane. So I think high B tier or B tier for the most part. Let's go with Disc Priest next. I'm actually going to put Disc Priest below Resto Druid, but in A tier. I think you bring a lot of utility again. You don't have Bloodlust though. You don't have Battle Res, that playing to that, but you bring, Power Infusion, which is huge. Unless Shadow Priests are really good, you're probably going to really like that in a lot of dungeons, especially for raid too. You got a Stamina buff, Disease Dispel, Mass Dispel, which is always important. AoE Fear, you great damage, really good damage toolkit too, especially if you execute it well. And a healing too. I think they have a higher skill cap than some of these other healers, but when executed well, they are insane. You also don't have Poison Dispel, don't typically have an Interrupt too for Mythic Plus, but I think you're going to see this in some higher Mythic Plus dungeons for sure, definitely for raid. Tier set looks good too. It buffs our damage and really helps out with our Power Word Radiance, which is cool. Disc has great HPS output too. And really solid damage. I think damage is probably one of their biggest things. That's why I'm putting them in A tier, and I think they're definitely above Holy Paladin, in my opinion. Very excited for this healer too. I'm going to be playing it in next season for sure. And yeah, I'm stoked for it, especially with how the tier set looks. It looks so cool. Like visually, it looks awesome. Like one of the best tier sets I've ever seen in WoW, for sure. Let's do Holy Priest next. I'm actually going to put it. It's probably going to be my lowest healer, in my opinion. I still think they're solid. I just think if you're bringing a priest, you're bringing a Disc Priest. Brings the same utility as that. You've got PI, Mass Dispel, Disease Dispel, AoE Fear, Stamina buff. You still don't have Battle Res. You don't have Bloodlust. Very easy to pick up though. One of the best healers, I think, for beginners. Doesn't seem to put out the same amount of like healing or damage though as some of these other ones. And I think you see that too from what I've seen from testing and watching other healers test some stuff. And I played a little bit in PTR, but not a lot. I just don't think they put out the same healing as these other ones. Like, honestly, I just don't think. I think with the big nerf to healers, the 25% is a big difference. And they just don't do as much as their disc counterpart in that area. Tier set actually looks pretty fun though, pretty dope. It plays into like prayer of minion, jumping to different targets, and then buffing your damage and healing of Holy Ward by quite a bit. I think that Holy Priest could change later on, but I feel confident in putting them towards the bottom of this list, in my opinion. Still a solid choice as a healer though, if you want to play them, but I think they'll struggle compared to some of these other healers. So still fun, and definitely I think you can do it to plus 20s in heroic rating, normal and heroic rating, without a doubt. Mistweaver Monk, man, I'm actually gonna put B tier. I think I might put it. I think I'm gonna put it above Holy Paladin, mostly because of how much we're seeing of these other Paladin specs that are doing really well. I probably played Mistweaver Monk though less than any other healer. So any Mistweavers out there, feel free to leave your thoughts down below. I know I'll appreciate it. I'm sure other people will as well. Seems like an insanely fun healer to play, though. I want to try it out this next season, but there's so many other classes that are looking good. It's hard for me to jump into that. And I want to play Resto Shaman really, really bad, and Disc Priest. So probably be pushing over those. But yeah, it looks really fun with fist weaving. The damage you can bring with that profile is really fun. I've been doing some research and watching some PTR testing with how they look compared to other healers in Rated Mythic Plus, and I think they're pretty solid healer overall. Offers a lot of passive healing with fist weaving, similar to Disc Priest. Has good utility with disease and poison dispel. Poison dispel being really big for Mythic Plus. Paralysis, AoE stun, bring Mystic Touch. If you're not bringing Windwalker Monk, which doesn't look like they're going to be insane for next year, but Brewmaster is looking really good, so we'll see if that plays in that. But I don't know, you know, it buffs physical damage by 5%, so that could be really good in Mythic Plus, especially higher end keys, and definitely good for raid. You're definitely bringing at least one monk, which I think is pretty damn valuable. But again, I think the raid is so focused on, it's like a range heavy tier. I think it's gonna be better favoring range for sure than melee. I think that hurts them, but they have good responses to damage, HPS. I think they don't do as good a job as some of these other healers to single target healing, especially if you can't go out put out damage there in a melee aspect is for raid. I think Resto Shaman and Preservation Evoker just are, it's easier to do damage, easier to heal, easier to respond to that damage. It's just insane. They also don't bring Bloodlust or Battle Res, and that's a big thing to mention. And from what I've heard, their tier site got nerfed by quite a bit, and it's a pretty significant difference from what it was before. So I'm gonna put them in B tier. I think they are slightly above Holy Paladin, just because, you know, no Bloodlust, no Battle Res for either one of these. They obviously both bring great utility. Both melee healers, though. But I think we're just going to be seeing Rep Paladin and Prop Paladin so much more in keys, especially, and probably for raid. So this is my final tier list, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below. I'm excited for the season. We'll see if we're right or wrong about any of these. If you guys don't know, I stream over on Twitch, so feel free to go check me out there. It's gonna be every weekend or when I can. I heal, DPS, tank, whatever. I play a lot of alts. I plan on, you know, playing at multiple different things for next season. So if like Hunter gameplay interests you, Shaman, you know, Priest, Paladin, Warrior, stuff like that interests you at all, Druid, feel free to go check me out over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.